What is up, guys? I'm your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and we are here with my Hulkling hero review. He's one of the two new heroes that recently came out in the Civil War expansion along with Tigra. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I did not know anything about Hulkling before he was introduced, to Marvel Champions. But now, I love this hero. He is very, very fun mechanically. I've been playing him a lot, in true solo, in multiplayer, and in PvP as well. Let's go ahead and dive into the hero review here. We'll be going over how strong I think this hero is, in Marvel Champions, just his power ranking. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into it here. So if you guys have seen any of these videos before, you guys know that I have 5 major criteria that I evaluate heroes by in Marvel Champions, and that's going to be, their thwarting, their attacking, survivability, economy, and versatility. And each one of these major categories has 3 subcategories. So for thwarting here, we have the stat line, the control, and the cards. And yeah, these are the most valuable things that I think are important whenever you're evaluating a hero's strength in Marvel Champions. So really quickly here, let's jump into Hulkling's kit and go over how he works, right? So this is Alter Ego, Teddy Altman with 4 recovery. He has a 5 hand size in Alter Ego, which is, a little bit under the average, and 13 hit points, which is, way above average. In hero form, he has, 1 thwart, 1 attack, and 1 defense. So very, very poor stats here. And he has, 5 hand size, 13 hit points. And his hero ability here is Chosen Shape. As a force response after a shapeshift upgrade enters play, under your control, you discard each other shapeshift upgrade you control and then ready up Hulkling. So essentially, you can only have 1 shapeshift upgrade in play, and each time you play a shapeshift upgrade, you can also ready up Hulkling here. And in Alter Ego, you cannot have more than 1 shapeshift upgrade in play, so that's kind of the same thing as his hero ability here. And a shape change is an action in Alter Ego. You can search your deck and your discard pile for any shapeshift upgrade and add to your hand, limit once per round. So the way that Hulkling works is that he is a Kree and a Skrull, and Skrulls can shapeshift. So he has these 4 shapeshift forms right here: the Hulk shape, the imitation shape, the armor shape, and then the wing shape. And whenever you play each one of these upgrades, they have a different, constant effect, where this one here, Hulkling gets, +2 attack and +1 defense, so kind of like Hulk, right? So he has that 3 attack if he has this shape in play. For this one, he'll get +2 thwart. For this one, +1 thwart, +1 attack, +1 defense, and he gains the aerial trait. And each one of these shapeshift upgrades also have a hero response here, where after you play an event, you can exhaust this upgrade and then deal 2 damage to an enemy. So if you're in your Hulk shape, not only do you have 3 attack, but each time you play an event, you can exhaust this card and then deal 2 damage to an enemy. And then like the wing shape here, you can exhaust this card to remove 2 from a scheme after you play an event. So each one of these, after you play an event, you can share that hero response. The imitation shape here does have like a little bit of a unique thing here with the force interrupt. Whenever an enemy would attack you, it schemes instead. Since it is force, it's required because I guess you're gonna be looking like you're in Alter Ego, with the imitation shape. So then when an enemy sees you, they're just gonna scheme instead. So very thematic card right here. So yeah, basically when you have this upgrade in play, you'll get that constant ability, and that's gonna be Hulkling's shapeshift here. So that's his unique mechanic. But one really important thing that you guys may have realized is that each one of these shapeshift upgrades also has 2 resource icons on it, which is pretty insane. So oftentimes in Marvel Champions, like a double resource, it doesn't have any effect. It's not an upgrade, it's not an event, it's not an ally, right? You can only spend it as a resource, right? But these right here, they're double resources, right? So like the shapeshift strike, it's an event. It's only 1 resource if you spend it. But the shapeshift upgrades, they're double resource if you spend it, and they cost 2 to play. So basically, you can decide to spend this card as a resource or play it down. That gives so much versatility because they have doubles that are universal, right? So it's not like the power of protection or something like that where they only generate double resources when paying for a protection card. You can use these for anything. For protection cards, for aggression cards, for identity-specific cards, or like for basic cards, it does not matter. So the most versatile kind of double, but also, it's an upgrade that you can just play instead, right? So you have all resources in your hand, you can just play this. You won't be stuck with like all resources in your hand if you build Hulkling with a bunch of, resource cards, right? So a lot of versatility, very, very strong type of mechanic there. Very fun and versatile as well. So yeah, that's kind of how Hulkling works. He wants to, change his shapes. So let's jump back over to the categories here, and we'll go over his thwarting. So for thwarting here, the 3 subcategories are going to be the stat line, the control, and the cards. I think that the stat line, the printed stat line on a hero's identity is very, very important because you want to have that, thwart stat of at least 2 or higher. So you can start initially thwarting, from the main scheme or like from side schemes if they start off in play. So having that 1 or lower thwart stat is pretty detrimental, to your identity. And the reason why I think it's so important to have that printed thwart stat on your identity card it's like a consistency type of thing, right? Sure, you can have Thor events, in your deck. You can put in Thor events, if you're playing like the Justice aspect. But what if you don't draw into them on that turn one, right? You don't have access to that every single turn, but your identity card, that stat line, you have access to that every single turn. So that's why it's so important here. So we have a category for this. So as you guys can see, obviously Hulkling has a Thor stat of 1, attack stat of 1, and defense stat of 1. So I did not give him a check mark here, but you can almost say that there should be an asterisk. And I debated like back and forth whether or not I should give him a check mark here. It doesn't change my overall ranking of him, so I just went ahead and left it out. But you could definitely make a very strong case of giving him this mark here because he does have consistent thwarting, from turn one and onwards, right? Because if you're in Alter Ego, on turn one, which you always start off in Alter Ego, you can trade this action immediately. Shape Changer, where you search your deck and discard pile for any shapeshift upgrade and add to your hand. So you could just get the Imitation Shape, which gives you +2 thwart, or the Wing Shape, which gives you +1 thwart, +1 attack, and +1 defense, right? So you can guarantee getting this card or this card, to your hand on turn one, and then play it and already have a Thor stat of either 2 or 3, right? If you play this one, you have a Thor stat of 3. If you play this one, you have a Thor stat of 2. So like, it's kind of like you get that big boost to thwarting already on turn one, which is guaranteed. But the reason why I did not give him the check mark is because it has a hand size of 5. You add that card to your hand to upgrade, and it costs 2. So like at worst, you're losing a card from your hand, and you're losing 2 more resources, so then you have 3 more cards in your hand. So like, it drops your hand size to potentially 3 in order to get your Thor stat up to like 2 or 3, right? So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and not give him, that check mark here. But honestly, like, you can definitely make the case. For my hero reviews, I definitely try to not be a stickler, for the rules, right? So it's more about how this hero plays. So even if, mechanically and on paper, they're missing like a check mark here or there, if they play like as if they had it, I'll usually give them that point. So like Hulkling almost plays as if he has it, right? I do feel kind of like he has a Thor setup too, because I'm usually getting that wing shape. But like, I guess if you don't get that shape, or if you spend research in your hand to play it, or you want to play other stuff and you don't actually play it, then he actually will not have that printed thwart stat up too. So I left it out here, but you can definitely really make a very strong case to give him that check mark there. I do want to make one other note here with how he works. So I really like Hulkling with player side schemes because he can easily thwart them out on turn one. A lot of player side schemes, if you're playing true solo, come in with 3 threat, right? So then if you have Hulkling here, let's say you flip up to hero form, and then you can thwart for 1. Then after you play like the wing shape, for example, you can ready up Hulkling immediately, and he'll have that +1 thwart here, and then he can thwart for 2. So like, he has a ready on turn 1 if you play Shapeshift Upgrade, and he can easily remove 3 threat, with just his basic activation. Even if you don't want to play the Imitation Shape, you can just play this shape here, which gives you the most versatility because, you get +1 to all your stats versus like the Hulk shape here where you're really focusing on attacking, or the Imitation Shape where you're focusing on thwarting, or the Armor shape where you're focusing more on like being defensive and healing, right? So yeah, you can definitely get that on turn 1. So he does feel very, very good, with his thwarting, but I'm going to just leave this out because like I said earlier, this doesn't really affect my overall rankings of him. Okay, let's move on to the second category here, which is the control. So usually what I mean by this is, does this hero have a way to flip down to Alter Ego safely, right? Can this hero control the villain to flip down safely and then do their Alter Ego shenanigans and then flip back up to hero form? Like they may want to flip down to heal and recover or something like that, right? So this can usually be, through confusing, right? If you confuse a villain that you control them, you flip down. If you have a way to block out a scheme activation or like mitigate threat, that also, fulfills this role. Hulkling actually doesn't have that, but I gave him the checkmark here because he still fulfills a function of what I want control to be, which is stopping the villain, flipping down safely, exhausting heal or doing whatever that you need to do, and then flipping back up to hero form, right? So something like an armor up with Colossus or like ready for a fight in protection would also fulfill this control checkmark. And yeah, Hulkling has that through his Thor event. It's a very, very cool Thor event. Probably one of my favorite Thor events in the whole game of Marvel Champions. 2-cost event here, Impersonation. He has 2 copies of this card in his kit. Hero action thwart. Remove 4 threat from his scheme. So already a law threat for 2 costs. That's a good amount. And then if this removes the last threat from that scheme, you may change the Alter Ego form. That does not count as your 1 manual flip per turn. So if you use this ability here to change over to Alter Ego, you can manually flip back up to hero form before the player phase ends, right? So you play this card, you can flip down, exhaust the heal, trigger Alter Ego actions, and immediately flip back up to hero form, and the villain will never have schemed on you. So That is a very, very powerful authority event here. I really like this event. And really quickly, I do want to go over the rules clarification with this because I had some people ask me the question about this. But basically, if you're Hulkling here, right, and let's say you have the wing shape, after you play an event, you can exhaust the wing shape as a hero response to remove 2 threat from a scheme. For impersonation here, you resolve the entire text of this before you can trigger this hero response. So it says remove 4 threat from a scheme. If this removes the last threat, you may change the alter ego form. So if you opt into changing to alter ego form, you can no longer trigger this hero response off of that impersonation because you're not in hero form anymore after you play, this event. You can just play the impersonation and then choose to not opt into changing to alter ego form. And if you stay in hero form, then you can trigger the hero response to remove 2 threat from scheme. But yeah, a couple people asked me about that, so I just want to make sure that everyone has the ruling there clarified. So yeah, so Hulkling, I mean, he's definitely got the control for Thwarting because he can flip down very safely. He actually has very, very good access to his alter ego thanks to that Thwart event. So he definitely gets a check mark here. And then finally, it's going to be the cards in his kit that help him remove threat, right? So usually it's going to be like Thwart events. It could be like a Spire Tracer, right? Just anything to help you remove threat. And Hulkling, I mean, we just talked about it, right, guys? He definitely gets that check mark because impersonation, one of the best Thwart events in Marvel Champs, in my opinion. Like, not just my favorite, but like a very, very powerful card as well. And also with the wing shape here, this card's also super duper good. 2 cost upgrade, you get that +1 Thor, right? So you have that Thor setup 2 that we want. And as a hero response, after you play an event, exhaust wing shape to remove 2 threat from a scheme. Guys, that is bonkers, right? So if you play the 0 cost event right here, Shapeshifter, you can exhaust the wing shape and remove 2 threat from a scheme. If you have a bunch of events from like aspect cards that are like 1 cost or cheaper, whenever you play it, you could always exhaust the wing shape if it's readied up to take 2 more threat off, right? So a lot of threat removal there. And obviously, if you have the imitation shape, then you can also Thor for 3 instead. And then one other cool thing is that this is an attack event, but it works with his thwarting if you wanted to, right? So the Shapeshifter Strike is a 2 cost event. Hero action attack do 5 damage to enemy. That's like okay, but you can also ready up your Shapeshift upgrade. So if you have the wing shape in play, then let's say it's like ready up or exhausted, it doesn't matter. You play the Shapeshifter Strike, right? You do 5 damage to enemy. You ready up your Shapeshift upgrade, which is the wing shape. Then you can exhaust the wing shape, remove 2 that from a scheme. And then you can play another Shapeshifter Strike because Hulkling has 3 copies of this card in his kit. So let's say you play another one. You do another 5 damage to the same enemy or a different enemy. And then ready up your Shapeshift upgrade. So you ready up the wing shape and it immediately exhausts it because the time window for the hero response after you play an event exhausts his card to remove 2 that from a scheme, right? That time window is right now, right after you play the Shapeshifter Strike. Remove 2 that from a scheme, and you can play a 3rd copy of Shapeshifter Strike. Trigger this effect again, do 5 damage, ready up the wing shape, and it immediately remove 2 threat again, right? So like you could play 3 copies of the Shapeshifter Strike, deal a total of 15 damage, but then also take off 6 threat with the wing shape. So very, very powerful card. I actually found that the wing shape is going to be the main thwarting shapeshift upgrade that you want here, with Hulkling, rather than imitation shape, because this one forces the enemies to scheme against you. So that's going to add more threat as well. This one, you allow the enemies to attack you, but you can also thwart and trigger the hero response, every single turn, or ready it with the shapeshifter strike and just, trigger it multiple times in one turn, right? So his thwarting is bonkers, guys. He has so many ways to thwart. You can add more ways by adding more events, in his kit. So he definitely has very good cards here. Hulkling's overall thwarting for me is 2 out of 3, but you can almost say 2.5 out of 3 or like 3 out of 3. I think that his thwarting is actually very, very good. I was a little bit more of a stickler on this, but I mean, if you add the check mark there, I'm definitely not going to argue against that. Okay, let's move on to his attacking category here. And Hulkling, I mean, he is a great attacker. The 3 subcategories I have for attacking is going to be the burst damage, a small instance of damage, and the cost curve. Can he play those attack events like smoothly? And yeah, he gets a full 3 out of 3 score here for his attacking ability. Let's go over the burst damage first, right? So if I had to say that Hulkling, has a weakness, I don't think he does have a weakness. I think that he's pretty well rounded and like, fulfills everything that you want. But his burst damage is, slightly lacking, like ish, if you're not in your Hulk shaped form, right? So the only attack event that he has in his kit is going to be the Shapeshifter Strike here. 2 cost event deals 5 damage to enemy, right? With just 3 copies of this card, it's normally not enough, right? So if there's any other hero in the game that has, 3 copies of an attack event and, it's 2 costs for 5 damage, I would normally say that's not enough. They don't have the burst damage there, right? Just 15 damage. Even if you play all 3 in one turn, you need outside, aspect card to like make that burst damage better to get that checkmark, right? So normally I would not give it to a hero, but Hulkling here gets it because it's baked into that attack event that you can ready up your shapeshift upgrade. So you want to have the Hulk shape here where Hulkling will get +2 attack. So he has 3 attack, and each time after you play an event, you can exhaust it to do 2 damage to enemy. So if your shapeshifts are striking with the Hulk shape, and normally, if you're going for burst damage, you're set up enough to where you can plan out that damage. So if you're set up enough, you usually be able to dictate which shape that you want, which is going to be the Hulk shape, right? Like if we're talking about burst damage, we're talking about like, can you play, your 3 attack events, in one turn or something like that. So obviously if you're able to set that up, you also have, the shape that you want, which, is going to be the Hulk shape for the burst damage here, right? So if you play a shapeshifter strike, you do 5 damage to enemy. You trigger this hero response, exhaust the Hulk shape, do 2 damage to enemy. You play another shapeshifter strike, deals 5 and 2, so another set for 7 damage, and you can play a third one here, do another 7 damage. So that's 21 damage there, triggering the Hulk shape 3 times and playing 3 shapeshifter strikes. And then you can also swing for 3 as well because you have that attack side of 3 now, with the Hulk shape in play. In terms of for burst damage, you're kind of paying 2 costs here to do 7 damage, right? So very, very powerful. I think that Hulkling definitely has burst damage in his kit. And yeah, he can definitely set that stuff up against Venom Goblin or like Green Goblin, Mutation Formula, like villains that you want to burst down. So he definitely gets a check mark for that. Yeah, very, very good burst damage here for Hulkling. I do want to say if you're not in your Hulk shape, the burst damage will be lacking, right? You won't be able to get that burst damage if you're not in the correct shape. But as long as you are playing him, in that Hulk shape, for that final push, you'll have that damage there with Hulkling. Next, the next subcategory for attack is going to be the small instance of damage. This is very important because if you have a bunch of minions, you can help, delete those minions, or you have like a bunch of tough status cards on enemies, you want to like punch them, knock off the tough and then punch them again to, defeat them, right? If a hero has like piercing, I'll also attribute that to giving them a check mark in this category. And Hulkling does not have piercing, but we just saw why he has so many small instances of damage. He is definitely a hero that you don't have to worry about minions with or about tough status cards with, right? And that's going to be with the Hulk shape here, right? So, after you play an event, exhaust Hulk shape, deal 2 damage to enemy. So even if you don't have the shapeshifter strike, each time you play an event, you can ping 2 damage off on enemy. This can knock off tough status cards, this can help you accrue damage, to take out minions. Very, very strong ability here. And Hulkling can obviously also swing for 3 with the Hulk shape, but each time he plays a shapeshift upgrade, he can also ready up as well and additionally swing again, right? So he definitely has small instances of damage in his kit. And the third category is going to be the cost curve of his attack events. Can he play, a bunch of attack events smoothly? And we just talked about it. He definitely can, right? The shapeshifter strike, only 2 costs to do 5, potentially 2 more damage, right? So 7 damage for 2 costs is bonkers, right? Getting a ready after you play a Hulk shape and you can swing it for 3. Very, very good. He can easily pay for all of his cards because he has 4 double resources in his kit. You can still add in the energy, strength, and a genius so that he can have 7 universal double resources, in his kit, but also never get stuck with a bunch of resource cards within the play because you can always just play, these upgrades instead, right? So very, very powerful, very easy to afford his attack events and to do damage, right? So he gets a overall score of 3 out of 3 for its attack. He has very, very good attack. Let's move on to the next major category, which is going to be his survivability here. And Hulkling, I mean, as you guys may have expected, he gets a full score, 3 out of 3 for his survivability. He is very, very tanky. So the first thing is going to be the identity card, right? The alter ego or the hero form of the card. Do you have survivability, on turn 1? That's important because, if you don't draw into defense events or ways to increase your survivability, can you still survive if the villain gets like an assault, on that first round and attacks you, twice, right? So Hulkling, he definitely has that printed on his identity card just because he has 13 hit points. Crazy right there, having, very, very high hit points, above average for sure, because the average is 10. But also with its alter ego ability, you can search your deck and discard power for a shapeshift upgrade and add to your hand. So if you're really feeling worried, like the villain's going to attack you, like if you're facing a Roland or something like that, and you want to build your defenses up, you can always just use this effect, on that first turn to grab like the armor shape, where you get +2 defense and you guarantee tally 1. And also after you play an event, you can exhaust this to heal 2 damage as well, right? So if you can get into any event, you can play maybe during the villain phase or the next, player phase, then you can start healing up as well. So, he definitely has ways, from on his identity card to increase his survivability. Very, very consistent survivability there. Let's move on to the next subcategory for survivability, which is going to be the cards in his kit. Does it have other ways to increase his survivability? This can be like through defense events or any other, card like that. And Hulkling definitely has that. So let's talk about his defense event here. It's the armor defense. So I actually don't think that this is that good of a card, but it can be very, very useful. So it's a one cost event, here interrupt defense. So when enemy attacks, you do damage to it equal to your defense, and then after this attack, you give Hulkling a tough status card. It's a little bit weird here, and I had to really sit down and think about how it works thematically to like have it make sense. So like, he has the spikes right here, right? So like I'm guessing the villain like, punches Hulkling in the face. He's gonna, put these spikes out, so he deals damage, to the enemy equal to his defense stat. And then after the attack goes through, he gains a tough status card. So like maybe like he has like more spikes, he's like more fortified now. That's kind of the only thing that I can think of. If you guys know a like way to make this work out thematically and you guys can explain it, definitely let me know down in the comments. But yeah, not my favorite card thematically because you take the regular hit, that attack to the face, and you get the tough stats card afterwards. So this is really, really good in protection and with minions, right? So like if a minion hits you for one, well, you can do damage to a minion, knock it out, potentially trigger like a change of fortune, and you get a tough stats card after that. So then after that, if the next round the villain attacks you, or if you get like an assault as an encounter card and the villain attacks you, then you can block that out with the tough. So like, he does have a way to access the tough stats card, which is pretty nice. But like, you don't want to be triggering this if the villain attacks you, because if the minion knocks off the tough, because minions activate after the villain, then that's gonna feel bad. If there are no minions and then the villain activates, you can take the hit for that first turn, and the next turn hopefully you still have that tough stats card to block like the next attack activation, right? So this card definitely can be useful. It's not my favorite in terms of like the flair of it. I think that there definitely are better defense events, in the game, but Hulkling definitely has in his kit at least. But the main card that's going to add to his survivability in hero form specifically is going to be the armor shape here, right? So he gets +2 defense with this card, goes up to 3 defense, and after you play an event, you can exhaust the card to heal 2 damage, right? So if you want to just stay up in hero form, you can easily just heal back up to full life, healing 2 every single turn, playing events every single turn, right? So you can also shapeshift to strike, do 5 damage, ready up the armor shape, heal, then it's exhausted, you do another 5 damage, ready it back up, heal, then it's exhausted, right? So there are ways for a Hulkling. Hey guys, Sesame wanted to come say hi here, so she's just gonna show right here. But yeah, so there definitely are ways for Hulkling to heal right here. And let's see what's she doing. Okay. All right. But yeah, I mean, Hulkling has a very good survivability here in his kit. So let's go ahead and jump back over here. And the final thing here is going to be, does Hulkling have healing in his kit? And we just talked about he definitely does. But why I think this is very important is because if the villain's able to get, an attack, on your hero, can you bounce back, from this game and heal back up? And, Hulkling definitely can with the armor shape, but he also has an alter ego action here, the Altman Residence. I really like this card here with Hulkling, and it's a 1-cost support. As an RT action, you can exhaust this card, heal 2 damage from Teddy Altman, and then shuffle 1 Hulkling card from your discard pile back into your deck. So I want to give huge shout outs here to Stretch22, who made it known that Aurora's Garden is a good card. Aunt May, it's Peter Parker's, healing card, where you can exhaust a heal 4 damage from Peter Parker. But the Aurora's Garden, I used to think was, maybe not as good because you're only healing 2 cards. Although I still always played it, healing 2 just felt a lot less than healing 4. But having that as an alter action is very good because you can exhaust every single time that you're in your alter ego and it immediately heal 2. So that's actually a pretty strong effect here. And obviously you can shuffle a Hulkling card from discard pile back into your deck, which is useful as well. But he definitely has the healing here. But yeah, combine the Almond Residence, with his armor shape here, Hulkling definitely has a lot of healing in his kit. And he doesn't even have to exhaust himself to use his basic recovery stat here of 4, which is above average, right? So, that's going to be pretty good here as well. So Hulkling definitely gets a full score, 3 out of 3 here for his survivability. Next going to be his economy here. It's going to be the next major category. And once again, guys, Hulkling gets another full score, 3 out of 3 for his economy here. Sorry, guys, I'm laughing because Sesame is... What does she want to do? I think she wants to go now. She going? Come on, you can go. Okay, never mind. She's not going anymore. She just wants to chill. All right. So, anyways, let's hop back over here. So for the economy for Hulkling, does this hero have economy on their identity card, right? So on turn 1, before you draw into your resource generators, if you don't draw into a double resource, do you have economy on turn 1? And normally, it will be kind of bad for Hulkling because he only has an alter ego hand size here of just 5, which is definitely, below average. You want to have at least 6 there. But his alter ego action here, Shape Changer, search your deck and discard power for a Shapeshift upgrade. What I see is search your deck and discard power for a double resource and add to your hand. So like, even though when you add the double resource, you still only have, 7 resources in your hand, right? It's not necessarily like having 8, right? If you add a double and you have a hand size of 6, you get, 8 resources, right? 7, I mean, that's still above average. That's better than having 6, right? So yeah, this is a very, very good ability here. Probably one of the strongest alter ego abilities of all time. But it's mitigated because he has hand size of 5, right? If you had hand size of 6 and this exact same ability, that would be bonkers. I think it's definitely fair and a good thing that they kept his hand size and alter ego at 5 here, because if they made it 6, guys, that's way too good. So yeah, I mean, he definitely has economy on his printed identity card. Next would be the cards in his kit. This can be like a resource generator or double resources. Okay, Sesame finally left. So what cards does Hulkling have, in his kit to add to his survivability? Let's hop back over. You guys already know it. It is the 4 double resource here, which is entirely insane. So with that alone, he already has a bunch of cards in his kit because they're universal, right? So it's not like you can only use them for like Hulkling cards or like for like aggression cards. You can use it for anything. So, he'll already get the check mark there for the cards. But in addition to that, I don't know why he also has this. This is not fair. He also has Alien Physiology, which is one of the strongest cards in his kit, probably like his main key card here. It's a 3 cost upgrade, so quite expensive, but it's also superpower. And as a resource, you can exhaust this card to generate a wall resource. Okay, let's not even look at the rest of this card really quick. Quinn Carrier, a lot of heroes who aren't Avengers don't have access to the Quinn Carrier, right? So like so many decks that I built and other people as well, we put a build support just to have the opportunity to cheat in the Quinn Carrier, because the way that build support works is that you can put a support into play. You don't have to play it, so you can play the Quinn Carrier with build support with the non-Avenger hero that naturally can't play the Quinn Carrier normally, right? You can cheat it into play. So a lot of heroes want to do that just because that WAD resource on demand is so powerful. Well, Hulkling, he's an Avenger, so he has access to the Quinn Carrier, but then he also has this card here, which is basically a Quinn Carrier. Like, I don't know why he has this. It's so good. So not only is it already good for like every single hero to have like a Quinn Carrier, right? But you can generate 2 WAD resources if you're instead paying for a Hulkling card. Guys, so if you're paying for any one of his identity-specific cards, any of his shapeshift upgrades, this resource generator, Alien Physiology, can be a double resource generator. What in the world, guys? That is like the coolest thing ever. So like, at worst, right? If you don't have any, Hulkling cards that you want to play that turn, this is still a WAD resource generator, right? Normally, if it was just a double here for any Hulkling card, it would drop, tiers below for me, right? I would rather have a WAD resource generator, like 1 WAD resource generator for like universally for any card than like a double for a specific type of thing, right? But to have both effects in one card is crazy, guys. And yeah, I've often used that card, to play a Shapeshifter Strike, play a second one using a double resource here, play a third one using another double. I mean, that just feels so fun, right? Because it's a 2-cost event, and you're just basically paying it, with 2 resources at a time with this, and the Alien Physiology. Crazy, crazy card here. So yeah, of course, guys, Hulkling is definitely going to get the checkmark here for the cards in his kit, giving him extra economy. And then the cost curve of his cards, I mean, he has a ridiculously cheap cost curve on his cards as well, right? So like I believe this is the only 3-cost card that he has. Yep, yeah, that's it, right? Patriot is a protection card from his precon deck, right? So his ally, 2 cost, Thwarting event, 2 cost, all this stuff here, 2 cost, 2 cost, 2 cost, and then like 3 costs for this. But this can generate a double on the turn that it's played and already mitigate its cost, which I don't know why it's doing that, right? And you have the 1 cost on residence, 1 cost armor defense, right? Yeah, guys, Hulkling, very good cost curve. One of the richest heroes in all of Marvel Champions, for sure. And then finally, it's going to be the last major category will be Hulkling's versatility. And the 3 subcategories for that is going to be in-game versatility. Does he have a cancel in his kit? And then does he have aspect versatility? And he gets a score of 2 out of 3 here for me for his versatility. So in-game, he definitely has in-game versatility. We just talked about it before, right? Having so much economy basically adds to versatility, but like whichever form you're in, you like have more abilities to do stuff in that form, right? So like for Hulk shape, you can do more damage. Wing shape, you can do more thwarting. Armor shape, you can retaliate. You can do some healing as well, right? So you can pick and choose which shape that you want. But the thing is, he has so many ways to access his shapes, right? Through his alter ego action here. Search your deck and discard pile, right, guys? Being able to look through your discard pile for the shapeshift upgrade is huge. If this is only your deck, like it drops a whole ton down. But being able to look through your discard pile, crazy, crazy good. And his ally here, Wiccan, adds so much more versatility. It's a 2-cost ally, 2 throw, 1 attack, 2 hit points, just like your basic stats there, right? But as a response, after you play Wiccan from your hand, search your deck and discard pile for any identity-specific, event and add to your hand. So I love to grab Shapeshifter with this, because if you play Shapeshifter, 0-cost event, you can search your deck and discard pile for a Shapeshift upgrade, add to your hand, will get you Wing Shape or Armor Shape or like whatever Shapeshift upgrade that you want. But even if you don't want to play it, it's fine, just use it as a double resource, right? Wiccan costs 2, you can just get a double back and refund his whole cost. That's bonkers, guys. Like, what is up with that? Yeah. So yeah, any sort of leadership deck that can recur Wiccan, or even with like a chance encounter from Justice, if you can bring him back multiple times, he adds so much versatility for Hulkling here. And I do want to note that, for Wiccan here, is after you play Wiccan from your hand, right? So you play like a Mate the Call, you will not be able to trigger this response here because Wiccan's not being played from hand. But if you use Suit Up, you will be able to, add Wiccan to your hand and play immediately from your hand and trigger this response right here. This deck right here is my favorite way to play Hulkling, and I made a little chart here because Wiccan is a new Moon Girl, right? You play Suit Up, grab Wiccan and, any upgrade that can be attached to an ally, and then Wiccan will grab Superpower. Superpower grabs any shapeshift upgrade, right? So you get a double resource whenever you play Wiccan, refunding a lot of his costs and the cost here for Suit Up. Very, very powerful recursion ability here with Hulkling, and gives him a lot of versatility as well. So yeah, I mean, he definitely has that in-game versatility. Next is going to be the cancels. I think that encounter card cancels are very important in Marvel Champions because if you know for sure you can cancel like an advance or an assault, then you can play a little bit more risky, right? You can like drop down to like 2 health and know for sure that you won't, die this turn, or, let the main scheme, be like 1 or 2 threat away from popping, and know that you won't lose because you can cancel like a scheme activation or something like that, right? So having that gives the hero a lot more versatility. Unfortunately, Hulkling, like most heroes in Marvel Champions, does not have any encounter card cancels in his kit, but it's not bad of a like detriment there. He definitely still has a lot of other things going on for him. And then finally, it's going to be aspect versatility. Does Hulkling have versatility across all different aspects? And he definitely does. He can play very well in aggression, leaning into that Hulk shape, right? Even better than Hulk can play in aggression because you just have a lot of versatility, being able to exhaust the shapeshift upgrade to deal 2 additional damage, every single time. In addition to having that, attack stat at 3, he can have a lot of justice versatility, being able to thwart a lot with that wing shape, exhausting each time you play an event to remove 2 threat from a scheme. Guys, so much threat will be removed, with that wing shape. And then obviously he can play in protection as well, which is his precon, leaning into his defense event, the armor defense, where you can do damage to enemy during the villain phase and potentially trigger stuff like change of fortune as well. But Hulkling just naturally has high defense as well, right? Because if you give him the +2 here, then he'll have a defense stat of 3, which is pretty crazy with the retaliate 1. So yeah, he can definitely play in any aspect and do very, very well. Definitely has that aspect versatility. His own kit by itself like does a lot by itself, right? So he doesn't really need a specific aspect to play well. Whenever I played Hulkling's protection precon against Ronin, per request by my channel members, I actually had a pretty good time with it, and the entire game I was not able to draw an ally. We did not win the game, I still lost, but lasting that long against Ronin, even on standard, but with no allies, guys, that's pretty crazy. Like, we just didn't draw into any allies the entire game because the precon decks don't come with a bunch of allies, and then we didn't get Wiccan either. So like being able to survive like heavy hits from Ronin, like that felt insane. And like already then I was like suspecting that Hulkling is going to be an S2 hero, and he definitely is in my opinion. I think that he's one of the strongest heroes in all of Marvel Champions. He has almost all the check marks covered here, for my hero evaluation charts. And like I said earlier, you can argue to give him the check mark here for thwarting, to give him like a 3 out of 3 thwart stat, because he plays like he has very, very good thwarting, and that good initial thwarting on turn 1, which is what that subcategory really means. I just, I still took it off because, like I said before, I think that if you have to spend a bunch of resources to get that down, and then you aren't able to play anything else with your hand just because you got like a really bad, first hand, then like it could feel bad. But yeah, I mean, being able to have really good thwarting, really good attacking, good survivability, really good economy and versatility, guys. I mean, he is full on very, very good. Like, the hype is real. Hulkling, super versatile, super unique. That's another thing too, right? Like, none of my Hulkling games are the exact same. I prefer to alternate between the wing shape and the Hulk shape. So I'm usually just, flipping around those two shapes. But like sometimes I don't even play shapeshift upgrade on turn one. Sometimes I play delayed. Sometimes I want to play, the armor shape or like the imitation shape, right? So crazy. Like he plays so unique, so different, but like at the same time he's consistent. Like that's so cool, so fun. This is definitely peak design here from the Fantasy Flight Games team. I really, really, really like Hulkling, guys. If you guys want to have fun in Marvel Champions, Hulkling is a hero that will deliver and give you fun. And it's also not too thinky, right? Like you don't have to like he's not super complicated to where you have to like spend a bunch of time like thinking about what you're gonna do. You can just do stuff and like it just kind of like work out. So like, yeah, guys, I cannot express. Hulkling is a very fun hero, very strong. I don't know anything about the character. I mean, I know a lot more now. I used to not know anything about the character, but yeah, I like Hulkling. Hulkling is cool, guys. Yeah, let me know down in the comments if you guys agreed or disagreed. Like always, this is just my personal opinion, but I think that Hulkling is one of the strongest heroes in Marvel Champions, deserving to be in the S tier right here. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Hulkling. I hope you guys liked this video. I hope it was informative, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.